Well, here we are on the Sunday special with Joe Rogan. We're going to jump into the interview in just a moment because this is awesome. But first, I want to say thanks to our sponsors over at Movement. So, Movement, they make these kinds of watches, right? It's nice. Go buy one. With Joe Rogan, the granddaddy of us all in the podcast space. I mean, this dude made the podcast space, and he's awesome also. So thanks so much for stopping by.
I don't think I did that. I think Adam Carolla did it.
I'll have to have you guys fight it out.
I came in after.
I love Adam too, so I'll have to. But there's no question that right now you're dominant in the space, and it's an amazing thing because you're a really gifted guy. I mean, you can sit there for 3 hours with somebody and talk about the most random topic. How did you get to be doing what you're doing right now? Like, give us the whole history.
Well, with the podcasting, it just started out doing a video thing with just Ustream. Like, I'll just get a studio somewhere. So I got a studio, and then after the studio, I'm like, well, the studio's kind of little.
And you've got a monster studio you were telling me about now that's just awesome.
It's pretty nuts.
I've totally gone wrong with this studio. There's no question about it. So what got you all the way to the podcasting? I mean, like, start from the beginning, from childhood, from birth. Like, what's your whole backstory?
I competed in all these different national tournaments. I traveled all around the country. Most of my formative years were spent traveling around the country fighting in martial arts tournaments. I went
from big shift?
Yeah, well, you know, I was realizing that fighting was really bad for your brain. And I was realizing that and I was realizing that this is going to definitely have a negative effect on my consciousness.
It's amazing. I want to ask you actually a little bit about the MMA stuff, because you still cover MMA, you're still big into MMA, obviously you're a big analyst over there. Do you think that there is, I'm worrying about this about the NFL, and I wonder if it also applies to MMA. Do you think that there is always going to be MMA, there's always going to be NFL, boxing? Do you think these things are always going to exist, or do you think that as a society we're going to transition away from those as people start to become more concerned about brain injury, for example? Like, you've seen the NFL's ratings decline because people seem to be really worried about concussion levels.
Yeah. Who knows? I mean, who knows what they're going to be able to do 50 years from now? But I think it's entirely likely that until then,
MMA, I do wonder if there is a certain element of channeling just the human drive, particularly the male drive for aggression in watching these kinds of sports. Because I know a lot of genteel dudes who love MMA specifically because there's part of just the human psyche that needs to watch people get their ass kicked.
Yeah, it's genetic. It's very thrilling, and and some could say it's actually cathartic, that it actually releases this desire for aggression and violence.
I think there's a good case to be made for that, especially because you do see that in the animal kingdom. You see chimpanzees sparring with each other basically just for a show of dominance, and you certainly see it among young boys. A 4-year-old girl, she wants to sit there and be nice and play with her toys and read, and my 2-year-old boy wants to kick some ass. I mean, he is hardcore.
They want this weird thing where you're not even having the Boy Scouts anymore. You just have the Scouts. Like, there's this bizarre desire. It's very weird, and I don't know why. I don't know where it's going. I don't know what's causing it.
It's so bizarre. It actually has medical consequences. So I know a lot of doctors because, as I've said many times, my wife is a doctor, and there are cases now where doctors are walking into a room and it says on the chart that somebody is of a particular sex and they're not of that sex because they're writing the sex they perceive themselves to be. Well, that changes your diagnosis. You have a completely different body. So, I heard a story about one patient who came in and was having lower abdominal pain. Well, if you're a boy versus you're a girl, that's going to make a pretty large difference into how that diagnosis goes. Like, shouldn't at least a doctor know what sex you're born with? It's totally wild, and it's all this attempt to level, I think, everything. The attempt to just get rid of natural differences between human beings and pretend they don't exist. Like, we all want everybody to obviously have equal rights and equal. I think what's causing all of this is that there's a deep desire right now in a free society to try and figure out why some people succeed and some people fail, and we're never allowed to say that there are natural issues at stake. And I understand the resistance to it based on race, right? So, for example, you see a lot of people who will say you can't ever talk about racial differences in IQ because that is going to lead toward this racist conclusion that your race defines your IQ. There are racial differences in IQ based on kind of group statistics. You saying there are group differences in IQ because every study ever done has shown group differences in IQ, not even based on racial groups necessarily, based on different groups generally between between, you know, age groups. There are differences in IQ, actually. If you show that, at least from young age to like 12, if you mention any of these things, then you're overriding the idea of a tabula rasa human being who can be created in whatever image you want. Like, what people really want is to correct the cosmic imbalances, as Thomas Sowell says. I don't know, what do you think is behind it? These days, you can get practically everything on demand. Our podcast, you can listen whenever you want, obviously when it's convenient for you. So why are you still going over to the post office to mail letters and packages when you can get postage on demand with Stamps.com? With Stamps.com, you can access all the amazing services of the post office right from your desk 24/7 when it's convenient for you. You don't have to get in the car and waste gas money. Buy and print official U.S. postage for any letter, any package using your own computer and printer, and the mail carrier just picks it up. Click, print, mail, you're done. It could not be easier. We use it here at the Daily Wire offices. We use it at the Shapiro household as well in Shapiro Scan. Right now, use Ben Guest for this special offer. It's promo code Ben Guest. You get up to $55 free postage, a digital scale, and a 4-week trial. Go to Stamps.com before you do anything else. Click on the radio microphone at the top of the homepage. Type in that promo code Ben Guest. That's Stamps.com. Enter that promo code Ben Guest and you get that special deal. All right, so we're talking about sort of the levels of chaos, and I have a theory.